Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Adam, and in today's video I want to go through all the home media releases of the hit television show Friends, which ran from 1994 to 2004. Now, depending on when you first watched Friends for the very first time, you will have seen up to one of three different cuts of the show. There was 10 seasons, 236 episodes. And it's been released on pretty much every single home media format out there. And we're going to go through them all. So this video is kind of your guide to knowing which version you want. Because believe it or not, on home media, there's two different versions available of Friends and multiple editions with all different bonus features. So the one you've got in your hand came from one of three different scans of the original negatives, and maybe the one that you want is a completely different set that you've never heard of before. So we're going to go through them all, but before we do, I just want to talk a little bit first about how Friends was made, so you have a better understanding to what is actually on these releases. Friends was filmed between 1994 and 2004. They started filming always in August and ended around April or May of the following year, but it was broadcast between September and May of the following year, which meant when you started watching the new season, they were coming up to filming the end of that current same season, which I think is pretty cool. It was filmed in front of a live studio audience with 4 Panavision 35mm cameras, each loaded with super 35mm film, and by the end of each episode they would have 12 hours of footage that would need to be edited down. Now, every single episode of Friends was actually written initially as a 30-minute script, and that's basically because on the day of filming, some jokes wouldn't work, some plot points may not make sense, or they might want to tweak things, improvise, the studio audience didn't get it, so some things would get removed before they even filmed. But by the time they were editing down to the shooting script, they'd have an episode length of about 25 to 28 minutes, and that is what would be known as the episode. And that's what I like to call the extended cut. Now, it aired on NBC in America and on Channel 4 in the UK. And NBC has adverts, I guess, because a 22-minute hard-lined time run needed to be achieved before it was able to be broadcast. So the producers and editors of the show would have to go into each episode and slim out a few jokes to make it a 22-minute cut. I call that the broadcast version. Now, when the show ended in 2004, it wasn't over. Loads of networks around the world still picked up the show and on reruns, and every network has different lengths of adverts, and a 20-minute version now had to be created for every episode to satisfy certain longer running advertisement on a network, and I call that the syndicated version. So depending on when you first started watching Friends, you will have seen one of the 3 different cuts I've just mentioned. If you watched Friends for the very first time during its original run between 1994 and 2004 like me, you saw the broadcast 22-minute version. If you first started watching Friends from 2004 up to when it first appeared on Netflix, you will have watched the 20-minute syndicated version and be completely unaware that there's almost an extra 10 minutes in each episode that you haven't seen yet. Now, only 2 versions of these are available on home media, the broadcast version and the extended cut version. But which is which, and what has the best quality, what has the best representation or the best memory of when you first watched it? Just going to go through before we show any releases, how Friends got mastered to its format throughout the years, because it's available on Laserdisc, VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, and 4K, and there are multiple versions on almost all those formats except for Laserdisc. In fact, as a side note, there was only ever one Laserdisc release back in 1996, I think, from Singapore as a best of season 1 with only 6 episodes on it, and that is a mega rare Laserdisc to find. I've never seen it, so we'll just forget about that one, to be honest. It's a bit of a myth, I think, you know. So season 1 started 1994 and ran a new season every year thereafter. But it wouldn't be until the 4th season, The Wedding in London, before people would be able to experience Friends at home for the very first time, and it would appear for the first time on VHS. So to help us understand what is exactly on these home media releases, let's talk a little bit about how Friends was mastered over the years from 1994 to 2004. And to get clarification on this, I did email Warner Brothers asking a few questions, and they did email me back. So from 1994 to 1997, the 35mm would be scanned through a telesim machine to create on a analog master reel-to-reel tape a basically 1K version of each episode. From 1998 to 2000, that analog process moved to a digital workstation, which meant there was an increase in color and less noise on the final result, resulting in a cleaner picture. And then from 2001 to 2004, instead of being run through a telesim machine, creating like a 1K version, it was actually scanning the negatives in 2K to a digital intermediate file, which would then be edited and color corrected in sound and all that, ready for broadcast. So if you bought on DVD, for instance, Friends, you would see from Series 7 onwards a definitive change in quality with deeper, bolder colors and a bit more detail in that picture quality, as they now were creating 2K versions. Now, just because the show finished, it didn't mean that they had finished sort of messing with Friends, as it were. From 2001 to 2005, Warner Brothers created what I call the extended set in Region 1, and all of those seasons were scanned in 2K from the negatives and from the original edited version, which was the 25 to 28 minute extended cut. They all got released, and we'll go into that a bit later. And then in 2008, 2009, dates are hazy, a project started, a restoration project started on the negatives of Friends. Now, for this, they went back to the original camera negatives to basically scan everything. All 12 hours of every single episode was scanned between 2008 to 2011 in 4K to a digital intermediate file on the workstation. And then from about 2010 to 2011, those 4K files were basically shrunk down to a 2K digital intermediate to be edited and worked on for the forthcoming Blu-ray release. And then in 2021, another project started up by going back to those 4K digital intermediates and began reframing everything for the 4K release that we would get in 2024. So as you can see, the scanning of the negatives only happened like a couple of times. And there are different ones that got kind of scanned for different releases, resulting in the many versions out there that are available on home media. So let's go through year by year what came out for Friends on home media. So it all started in 1997. For the very first time, we could have Friends in our living rooms. Warner Brothers released Series 1 and Series 2 on VHS for the very first time, the entire seasons in 3 different ways. The first release was a single VHS tape that contained 4 episodes. That would mean if you want the entire season, you'd have 6 tapes in your hand per season. The second release was to take 3 of those tapes and bundle them up into a part 1 and the other 3 tapes into a part 2. And the third final release was taking those 6 tapes and putting them into a cardboard box to sell off the entire set in one. Now each VHS, like I said, has 4 episodes, and each tape has different artwork pertaining to the series it comes from. I won't go through all of them because for 2 seasons, that's like a lot of tapes. But the quality of this was, came from like the broadcast, basically. The 1K analog master, not great quality, and it was in stereo, and it was the great way to own it. The first 2 seasons, and it had a white spine. The following year, in 1998, they then released Series 3 and 4, because on the TV was about to air Series 5. So Series 3 and 4 came out. Now the difference between Series 3 and 4 is that, again, the artwork on each tape for the front cover is different, and there are 6 tapes, and each tape has 4 episodes, but on the spine is a black, like, barred version of the word Friends. Me, myself, as an OG Friendser, I prefer the white version, but that's basically how the first 4 seasons of Friends hit VHS. And then every year thereafter, they would release the new series, but from Series 7 to 10, the style of the artwork would change from this white and black sort of look to a full color look. And by 2004, they finished releasing Friends on VHS. Now, in 1999, when Series 6 was about to launch on broadcast, they were releasing Series 4 and 5 for the very first time on DVD. The releases happened in one of 2 different ways. You had your single disc release containing 8 episodes per disc. It was the old Warner Brothers Clipper. Different artwork for each DVD. There would be 3 DVDs to 1 season, and you'd have a flipper disc inside. It would be in 4x3 with stereo sound, and the Friends on Location or Friends Gone to London would be an extra on one of the discs, and they would release a full season in 3. The second way to get the seasons 4 and 5 would be to get the box set that would then eventually be released, which would look like this. Same exact discs if you bought them separately, but this time in a nice little box. And again, you can get all 10 seasons exactly like this eventually, and if you turn it on its side, you'd have the entire skyline of New York on the spine, which I thought was pretty cool. But you'd have to wait a couple of years, because we're on Series 4 and 5, before they'd go back in 2000 to release Series 1 to 3 at the same time they were releasing Series 6. So, But yeah, all Friends you can get on DVD singly. Now all of these actually come still from the 1K master, but it's done on a digital workstation, so the picture quality is improved over the VHSs, which also come from the 1K but were done in an analog way. The color is slightly better as well, but it's still going to get better moving forward. Then in 2001, as Series 8 was being broadcast on the telly, we got Series 7 on home media. Things changed from this point on and would remain the same until Series 10. Instead of on DVD the usual 3 discs per season, Warner Brothers decided to change it to 6 discs per season. Each disc color coded, revealing a member of each Friends cast member's face, and each again still being a flipper disc containing only 3 or 4 episodes in total on the old flipper. But this time something new and different, and a first indication that there is more than the 22-minute version available from Friends. Because on side A, you would have the original TV broadcast episode in Dolby Stereo 2.0. But on side B, you'd have the never seen before footage extended episodes in Dolby Digital 5.0. So in surround sound, 5 to 8 minutes extra footage on a single disc for 3 or 4 episodes, split over 6 discs to contain the entire set, which would also become available as a box set when they released all of the 6 for the season. Now, the difference in the way they made these is by 2001, they were scanning in 2K. So it was being saved straight to a digital intermediate, meaning no analog in this at all, meaning the color was bolder, richer, the picture detail was better for the DVD format. Like, I did notice a difference when I started buying these for the first time. The improvement of the quality on the picture on these DVDs was impressive and better than previous DVDs, which came from a 1K source. But Friends was about to get better, because in 2002 to 2005, Warner Brothers would re-release, starting with Series 1 and 2 in 2002, the entire series. Series 1 and 2 came out as an extended box set in Region 1 only. And this is probably, I would say, the best way to own Friends. It's still 4:3, but it came from a 2K scan to a digital intermediate with the full uncut version of every episode. They packaged it together with commentaries, behind-the-scenes featurettes, trivia games, Gunther spills the beans on everything, featurettes, and disc art such as this with what I thought is quite cute, Monica and Chandler on the same disc, in a nice digipack like that, and, you know, a very popular way to own Friends. They would do this. This is available for all 10 seasons. Every season would have a different color, but you've got to be careful, because in Region 2 they would get something very similar, but it wouldn't be the extended versions. In fact, it would just not have the wording down here, and it would have the old 15 or 12 sticker in the corner. So be careful when looking on eBay for secondhand shit. And in 2003, Series 3, 4, and 5 would get released in that format, and in 2004, 6, 7, and 8, and then in 2005, Series 9 and 10 got released in that format. But we still ain't done yet. We've still got more to go. Now, when the show ended in 2004, the very next year, in 2005, this was available, the Friends series finale. This was a exclusive limited edition release of the final episode, with, never to be included anywhere else for some strange reason, extras that only appear on this release. Single disc, dual layer, would also contain the pilot for the 1994, how it started, 10 years of beginnings, basically all the, intros edited together. Also the music video from the Rembrandts, which, by the way, as a cool little fun fact, that music video that was made, which features on this and a few other sets, was actually recorded between Series 1 and Series 2. And in that very same year, in 2005, the wardrobe set would come out. This was a Region 1, I believe, and it basically kind of looks like a wardrobe where the doors open, and inside would be box sets very much looking like this. in a slimline version, which when you look at the back spells out the word Friends. It's basically just a reprint for America of the extended versions, containing all the same extras. In Region 2, though, we would have to wait for those extended versions to come. In 2006, in the UK, we had the One With, which was basically a reprint of the American set that came out the year before, but had the broadcast versions in it, even though the covers, the box sets, the individual box sets look like this, in the slimline DVD covers. No extras, I believe. I think the music video is included, but basically just a 10 package release of Friends. It wouldn't be until 2009 that people in Region 2 would get to experience those extended footage versions from the USA in a massive white box set, which also would get a slim version of this release in a few years' time. But this is basically all 10 seasons wrapped up. I think it misses out a couple of commentaries, though, from the first 2 seasons. So, you know, the best way to own Friends, I would say, is the Region 1 box sets to get the full thing. But basically filled with extras. The DVDs inside would basically be, per season, there'd be 10. The artwork would be pertaining to the season. You open it up and you got your discs basically like this. And all of the episode guides would be here, with also a episode guide booklet containing information about the episodes, the special features for all 10 series. And basically, yeah, us Brits were happy. Now, in 2008, like I said, that came out in 2009, nothing actually got released. And it's an important date to note because that's when a special project started on Friends. Warner Brothers went back to the film negatives in 2008 to 2009 and began rescanning everything. The 12-hour per episode footage in 4K to create a 4K digital intermediate that would then go on to be mastered down to a 2K digital intermediate that would then go on to be reformatted, edited, back together, and color graded for the Blu-ray release, which in 2012. Then they would take those same 4K digital intermediate, on the computer, again would reformat though in 4K and color grade, add HDR and all the good stuff, and in 2024 release as the 4K set. The Blu-ray and the 4K set would not only have all the same features that previous sets would have, but would also contain more bonus features in the Blu-ray, and then again another bonus feature in the 4K. But there'd be something different about those sets, which both stem from the same common master, Scan. But let's quickly go through some other releases. So in 2007, there was an NTSC Redbox version, which was a kind of like a small like a small condensed version of this. Little digibooks, and the discs would go directly into the cardboard. It would contain everything that this set has, but you're putting the discs into cardboard, which means you're probably going to scratch them in the future. But the red box was a nice little cool one. In 2014 in the UK, we got what I call the BME set, which was the beginning, middle and end. All 10 seasons would be wrapped up into 3 sets. This is the end set, and it contains seasons 8 to 10. So in the beginning set, you'd have seasons 1 to 3, and in the middle set, you'd have 4 to 7, and then in the end, 8 to 10. Now, this is quite funny because the disc art is an exact carbon copy of that Friends white box set, the extended one that we got in 2009. Even the disc art is exactly the same, and contains the same extras as was on that extended set. It's basically a cut down, slimmer version of the extended white box that I showed earlier, but that was also slimmed down in a white tall box in 2009, and a black version came out in region 1. Again, mirroring the same contents as the original extended sets that came out in region 1. Like I said, there's been multiple versions of Friends on multiple different formats. I said about the Blu-ray, the 4Ks. So they come from the same source. So the Blu-ray technically is no different to the 4K, but they've been edited differently. So they both come from the same 4K scan of the negatives. So effectively have the ability to hold the same detail. But the Blu-rays came from a 2K digital intermediate, that basically was internally shrunk down to 2K from the 4K scan. And they reframed the show. So it's not the same exact cut that you'll find on the extended or even the non-extended broadcast versions. These two versions on DVD are different. You got the broadcast version and you got the extended version. Just like the Series 7 DVDs and 8 and 9 and 10, which were flipper discs with extended cuts on side B, which I think these were really just an advert for the box set that would come out, like the next year. I think they released the extended cuts on this to say, hey guys, there's more to Friends, than meets the eye. And then when we find out it's like that for every season, we go out and buy the lot, which everybody did. But yeah, the broadcast version and the extended cut version come from completely different scans. The broadcast version comes from a 1K scan up until a certain time, and then it turned into a 2K scan, and the extended versions all come from a 2K scan, and the Blu-ray and 4K come from a 4K scan. But what they reframed on the Blu-ray and the 4K. So, for instance, certain shots are not the exact same. So they might have taken a different angle, to represent, because the 35mm format allows for more space horizontally. But for 4:3, they had to chop the left and right out to be broadcast. So what you've got on every DVD set is that 4:3 original broadcast version in terms of the ratio. But for the Blu-ray and 4K, they opened up the negative for the full width, which meant you were seeing things you really shouldn't be seeing. Don't tell anyone. You were seeing the sets, you were seeing things that should not be seen in Friends. And the top height was slightly shrunk a little bit, not by much, but sometimes it would be cutting out people's forehead. This is where they swapped the shot. They would use a different angle to represent this scene, basically having to re-edit the entire show. So this means that Friends is available in 3 different ways on home media. You've got the broadcast DVD set, effectively, the skyline as I call it, where it has New York on its spine, and you have the extended version with 5 to 8 minutes extra, of footage. And then you have the re-edited Blu-ray and 4K, which is nothing like the broadcast version. Not in 4:3, it's in widescreen, and it's been completely re-edited. Although most of the time it does stick to what was broadcast in terms of the shots, but a lot of the times they might even fade to black, or they might just go to black or to another scene. Like, there are a lot of hidden edits within that Blu-ray and 4K. And I believe that they are kind of edited in the same way, but the edit was done at different times. So there might be small changes between the 4K and that Blu-ray. But they are the highest quality way to watch Friends, you know. Netflix has the Blu-ray version, which they internally upscale to 4K, I believe. In the UK, that's still being shown on Netflix, but I believe in the USA, it's actually finished its license on Netflix. And once it leaves Netflix UK, I would recommend going out and grabbing either the Region 1 if you can play them set, or the Region 2 set. That's a bit of a beast. Unless you're not that bothered about behind the scenes, commentaries, or 5 minutes of extra Friends, you just want it in the highest possible quality for your 4K TV, then go get that 4K. You'll find a couple of extra documentaries on that as well as the Blu-ray. But you won't find, for some strange reason, the extras that appear on this set, or the reunion. The reunion's never been on home media, but there's a couple of extras on this finale DVD that have never appeared anywhere else for some strange reason. But that's basically it, guys. Every format of Friends in every which way possible. I hope I've done this justice. I think I have, but we're not done yet, guys. There's still a couple of more pieces that I want to show you here that I just think are pretty cute. Like, don't forget, you got your normal merch that you can buy. Pencils, rulers, cases. Like, Friends comes in every which way but loose. There was even a cool little VHS suitcase set in this way, and in another way I'll show you. In this way, it's all about the London. It's just a little box set about London. It comes with the London tape, which also it's the one with the wedding, the whole wedding, but it also does have some behind the scenes stuff on the tape as well. And it comes with the shooting script, the making of Friends. It has the initial first draft of the script in here, as well as the shooting script that they did at the for the episode, which I think is pretty cool. And I'm sure that they, other episodes have things like that. But here we go. The beefiest release that I've ever come across is this monster of a set here. This is a actual suitcase, although I don't think you can use it as such. And it is weighty as hell because it contains the first 4 seasons of Friends on the VHS format. All 4 seasons of every single tape, like, so weighty, in a cool Friends themed suitcase is a mental, like, who thought of this one? I don't know, but that is absolutely crazy. Like, it's got Friends all over it. It's like the Hobos Friends collection. And it also got pictures of the stars all over it as well. Yeah. Like, it's absolutely crazy. But yeah, all 4 seasons of Friends there for those that want it. I'm sure it's available on eBay. But yeah, and that's pretty much about all that there is on home media. Let me know in the comments below, what versions do you have on Friends, and if not, what version would you like? For me, the coolest set, I think, is the extended Region 1 sets, because all 10 seasons have different colors. The menus are pretty cool, that play the music, which other sets don't. It's a fold-out digi rather than a plastic DVD case, which plastic DVD cases will last longer than this fold-out digi, but this really individualizes a season, and kind of makes it look a little bit better than, say, having just, you know, a slim DVD representing the season, color coded with all the discs inside, or even a slimline version of this containing the discs. You know, for me, that's a little bit more better on the shelf, I'd say. But again, at the end of the day, it's personal preference, and the thing with Friends is there is so much choice. So anyway, thank you so much for watching this. If I've left anything out, if there's something, oh shit, if there's something here that you've not seen that I haven't shown, please let me know in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching this. This has been the one with everything in. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. Take care. Bye bye.